Brandon must have left, right? So hearing about Land O'Lakes, I want to talk to you about a story personally that happened to me. It's a little interesting story, and hopefully some of you guys can relate. So have young kids. Son was 9 years old and had career day, right? Been to career day with our kids before? So I'm in there and with all the other moms and dads or whatever, and, we're all going to talk about our careers to the audience and whatnot. And so it was a great, great environment and whatnot. But as I'm listening to all these different parents' stories, so just to give you context, so one of the parents was a police officer and was talking about, how he goes and saves lives and rescue kittens and all that kind of stuff. Another parent was like a petroleum engineer and was talking about how they're increasing. Oh, there you are, Brandon. Okay, you are here. Good. Talking about how, they're working to reduce fossil fuels and really get to, wind and solar and all the clean energies, okay? And then another dad was a neurosurgeon and talked about brain surgery and talked about how he cures people from, stigmatisms and all different kinds of ailments. And then I get up and talk about beef jerky. And so listening to you, Brandon, and how you guys are changing the world, my fellow Minneapolis, and now I'm here to talk about beef jerky. Now, here's what I did, though. I will tell you something funny. What I did was I brought a friend. I brought my Sasquatch along with me, and then I was kind of like Oprah and like, you get beef jerky, you get beef jerky. And so anyway, made all the kids happy because I did that. But needless to say, thank you for helping me feel really bad about myself, Brandon. But let's talk about beef jerky. So by show of hands, how many people in here eat beef jerky regularly? Raise your hand. Wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay, that's impressive. That usually does not happen. And part of what you're going to hear about is the fact that, and this is, man, I need to find all you guys' email address and make sure we send you guys a lot of coupons. Usually when I'm giving a presentation like this, less than half of the room raises their hand. And that was really our business challenge. And so if I kind of put it in context for you, if you think about classic snacking, companies, right, or classic snacking products, fruit and produce, chips, pretzels, cookies, crackers, all those sort of things. Pretty much every one of us have that in our pantry in some way, shape, or form, right? 90+% household penetrated. Even when you think about something like nuts and seeds, which has really grown rapidly over the last several years, it's at 70 to 80% penetrated. So still, most people have it in their household. For us, beef jerky, only about half of the people have it in their household. Only about half of the people have even tried it. So if you think about it, if I drew a line right in this room, this half of the groups eat beef jerky, this half does not. I don't know what the hell's wrong with all you people, but you need to start eating some. But that was the dilemma that we had, okay? So how do we get that other 50% of the population to see us as a relevant product, as a relevant snack? Because when you actually think about the components and everything that people are looking for snack, low in sugar, low in calories, high in protein, we had all of the components, but we just weren't a relevant food to them, okay? Now, the other part of the equation was for those people that were eating it, the half of the people that are eating it, they were still only eating it once in a while when I go on a road trip, when I go camping, when I go fishing, which really was only happening, 2 or 3 times a year. So our incidence rates was really small, again, compared to these other categories where people are in it pretty much every day, maybe even twice a day. So we had low household penetration, low buy rate. But other than that, everything was perfect, okay? So what did we have to do? So our strategy was really about reframing this category, reframing it from being beef jerky to thinking about it as protein snacking. And by thinking about it as protein snacking, we would be able to expand not only the occasions, right, from the once in a while to the all the time, and thinking about this as an everyday snack, we could also reframe the audience from primarily being a male-based audience to being about everywhere. And I'll talk about some of the different target audiences that we were trying to go after and what were some of the unique things that we had to do to them to make them be relevant to what our product was all about. And so if you think about our hero consumer, right, our core consumer, we can just call him Bubba for right now. Bubba is what we call hooks and bullets, okay? Hooks, fishing, bullets, hunting, right? The classic outdoorsman. And he's very loyal to Jack Links. He's very loyal to the category, frankly. He built this category, okay? But again, Bubba has a very specific demographic and psychographic. What was happening, what was emerging in our category was we noticed that there were all these opportunity consumers that we weren't talking to specifically, okay? And these consumers really looked at our product, and not necessarily looked at our product, but looked at what our product had to offer, and were interested in it. Again, high protein, low sugar, low calories, but we just weren't relevant to them, right? We weren't speaking to them in a language that they could understand. And so whether it was people going after the latest diet craze, right? Any ketos or paleos out here, right? How many of you guys have tried it? Yep. Those things work. So whether it was about the disciplined dieter, whether it was about the worker outer, right, using it for the physiological benefits of protein in terms of muscle building and muscle recovery and all those sort of things, whether it was the outdoorsman, not necessarily Bubba who hunts and fish, but the outdoorsman who likes to go mountain biking and hiking and all those sort of things, or even if it was just good old mom who wanted to give her, son or daughter a good healthy snack in the afternoon or after school, right? All of these were opportunity consumers, but none of them were considering beef jerky. And so what we had to do was we couldn't lose Bubba, right? But how do we create an environment and create a platform that enables us to talk to these other consumers in a way that brings them into our franchise? And so again, I already talked about the overall reframing of from beef jerky to protein snacking, right? Right there, those words change what the way that the consumer interprets the product. Number two, we really started to focus on the occasions, okay? We looked at the different occasions that our product could be relevant. So whether it was in the home, and as opposed to sitting around and watching a movie and eating popcorn or eating chips, sorry Pepsi, wherever you are, it was, hey, what about considering eating beef jerky, right? It's a salty snack. Again, it's healthy. It's one of those indulgent snacks that you can consume a lot of, and you don't have to feel guilty after the fact. Looking at it in the work. How many of us have had that 2 o'clock crash at work, right? I'm sure we've all been there. And instead of going down and getting the Snickers bar or getting the chips or whatever, why not have beef jerky? It's going to give you the satiety, but again, it's not going to have that crash feeling afterwards. Talking about the gym and fitness and being able to bring in, protein into the fitness environment. And one of the things we had to do here was we actually had to think about product formats because bringing in a bag of beef jerky really wasn't practical for the gym. So we actually converted some of our products into bars. And so then you could take a bar, pop it in your gym bag, and can consume it either before or after your workout. But most importantly, we couldn't forget about our outdoor environment, right? Our outdoor environment was where we built this business. And so we still had to be relevant to Bubba, but we expanded the occasions of the outdoors, the hiking occasions, the mountain biking occasions, all of those things that still made the outdoors relevant, but were speaking to consumers that really weren't thinking about beef jerky outside of the context of hunting and fishing, okay? So our approach to media was multifaceted, and I've got my media partners right here. Way to go, Empower. Give it up to them. If you guys don't have a good media agency, here you go. I'll give you your plug right there, Tim. You can pay me later, man. But it really was multifaceted. We obviously went through the broad awareness vehicles, right? All of the notice and the engagement vehicles in terms of linear TV, online video, all the typical things. But we also got very specific and granular because, again, we wanted to talk to these different consumers at the right moment at the right time. So everything from programmatic out of home to, geofencing mobile, all of those specific tactics that enable us to get down to the granular level of conversion. We also had to think about our creative kind of in a multitude of different approaches. So we had creative around the working out, right? So we had our Working Out with Sasquatch, if any of you guys saw that. Working Out with Sasquatch, if any of you guys saw that, where we partnered with Odell Beckham and Clay Matthews. Then we evolved to our Running with Sasquatch, was again a more outdoorsy, really focusing on some of those activities that people do outdoors, but doing it in a context that was more relevant than just getting chased by Sasquatch. And then we moved to our most recent campaign, which was the original protein campaign, which I'll share a little bit about with you, which really starts to reframe it in the context of other snacks, right? It puts it in the context of the occasion as well as puts it in the context of, you should have thought about this snack versus this other one in this particular situation. And I'll go through some of those here in just a second. We also had to diversify our media. We were very heavy in TV and very heavy in digital early on. And we went to much more of a multifaceted media approach, as I just talked about, up and down the funnel, where we brought in things like gas station TV and geofencing mobile, as I said earlier. And this really enabled us to use our dollars a little bit harder. Again, like all of you, dollars are hard to come by, and we didn't have unlimited budgets, so we had to make every dollar work harder. And it was a little bit of a leap of faith, because as most of us marketers who've grown up in the world of broad-based advertising and trying to get all the awareness that you could get, how did you get more surgical, right? How do I make sure to what Tim said earlier, that one-to-one works a lot harder for me than the one-to-many? And that was one of the things that we really focused on as we went through this process. There was also a lot more creative diversification that we had to do. So again, we had really focused on Sasquatch in the Woods, Sasquatch in the Woods. I'm sure all of you guys have saw that. And it was great in terms of an awareness vehicle. Nobody, that we talked to wasn't aware of Jack Links. but it just wasn't relevant to them because we had never spoken to them in a language that they understood. And so we changed the way we put our creative together to ensure that we were actually speaking to mom, or that we were speaking to, that worker out, or speaking to people in the language that they understood, and then showing our product and how it could be relevant to that specific occasion. And ultimately, we still had to keep our Sasquatch, right? But what we changed him from, in the butt of a joke, if you think about what he had been to what we call our motivational life coach, okay? Motivational, yep, you got it, right? And that's really what he is. And when you see the spots that I'm about ready to show you, that's where you'll see the role that he's playing, because he's very integral to us as a brand. He helps us punch above our weight. So we couldn't abandon him, even though we were expanding what his role is. So with that, I'll start with the first one, which is, again, this is all of our original protein campaign. And the context of this was really put in a juxtaposition of historical figures with today's kind of, life stages, if you will, or life occurrences. And the premise behind it was to say, hey, if, Genghis Khan could conquer, Mongolia, do you think he did it with a raspberry protein isolate shake? No, he probably did it with meat, right? And so I'll let you see some of these, and then any questions afterwards.
If meat could help them cross treacherous waters. It can definitely help you work past 7. Power through. With help from the original protein. 100% beef, Jack Link's jerky.
Motivational, right? I'll let you see the next one in the same context.
If meat could help them create a marvel of the world by hand, it can definitely help you build a bookcase. Power through. With help from the original protein. 100% beef, Jack Link's jerky.
So you can see in both of those, again, focusing on the occasion, still showing the product as a means of helping you get through whatever that occasion is. So you saw both the work occasion as well as the home occasion, okay? So again, trying to stay relevant, but trying to expand, or trying to stay true to what we are in terms of the tonality and the spirit of the brand, but trying to expand the relevance across these different occasions that we hadn't done before. Now I'll show you this last one, and this last one was more of kind of how I set up the Genghis Khan example, which is thinking about protein in context of all of your different protein choices. When you think about, yogurt, you think about protein bars, you think about even nuts and seeds for that matter. Why do you choose those and not choose beef jerky when in many cases it has as much, if not more, protein and less of the bad stuff?
Strawberry mango smoothie. No? Okay.
Smoothies didn't conquer cities. Meat did. Choose the original protein. Jack Link's beef bars.
And that's an example of, again, a format change that we made to also make the product format more relevant to the occasions, because that was obviously be the fitness occasion. So that's just a smattering. We did a bunch of different things across all the different media touch points. We obviously had, digital, we had social, we had a variety of different ways of bringing this campaign to life. I just wanted to use these to kind of give you the broad context. So what are the results? Overall, we'd say this has been very successful for us. On awareness, we already had pretty high awareness, but our awareness shot through the roof, and we believe the primary reason is because we were talking to people that we had never talked to before. So both our aided and our unaided awareness went up. Our household penetration went up 2 full points. And so again, back to that 50%, we're trying to get into that 70 to 80% to see this kind of household penetration within the same year is pretty incredible. Our web traffic actually went up, particularly within our unique visitors, and we saw a lot more women and a lot more non-hooks and bullets begin to go to our site, which again is exciting. And then most importantly, we drove growth and we drove sales. Still some opportunity areas. You know, we still are working on what's the role of occasions across all the different ones in that home, work, and fitness environment that we were just talking about. Still working on more surgical targeting vehicles. So again, I had some meetings with some of you guys earlier, and I'm very interested in how you can get more surgical and really drive causation and not just correlation. And then last but not least, as we expand our product portfolio, we're working on more product-specific messaging and how we can leverage that to be able to drive to a broader audience as well. But net, I would say it was a success. And so with that, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I feel better about myself now, having been able to share this with you guys, but I'll open up for any questions.
TD, that was great. Thank you very much. We have time for questions, guys.
Where's the samples?
Oh, no.
Where's that Sasquatch?
Just give me your email address. I'll give you guys all the trough of beef jerky. Yes.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm from Simplify. Hey. I'm a huge Jack Link's fan, and this question is for all of you as well, kind of more like of a consumer than like from my professional role.
Sure.
The quality of the product matters even more, I would say, than the messaging, right? So the reason I love Jack Link's is because when I flip over the ingredients and I see what's in it, and I am one of those like health conscious people, I'm like, cool, I feel good about eating this. Sure. But there are cases where the messaging is, you guys do this great job with all these brand identities. You get it in front of the right person, but at the end of the day, if I look at that product on a shelf and I turn it around and I'm like, well, what's all this?
Absolutely.
You're not going to buy it. Or if you try it and then find out later,
Right.
You're disappointed.
Right.
So I guess my question for you is how, working for the brand directly, integrated are you with like product teams to be able to take feedback like that, right? Because all of us in this room are marketers, and you guys can do a great job of getting your message in front of the right person. But if it falls flat on the product itself, then internally, how are you guys informing each other?
It's a great question. You couldn't have said it better in terms of the product has to live up to the promise, right? I'm fortunate that I actually have R&D report to me, so I actually get to control that, and we spend a lot of time ensuring that the messages that we send out there, the product is going to live up to them. I know that's not the case in a lot of companies, and they do run into that dichotomy of you say all this great stuff, and then the consumer picks it up and is like, well, wait a minute, you basically just lied to me, and then you lost them forever. We've been fortunate not to have that situation, but it's absolutely true.
Could you speak a little bit more to the alienation piece of
Sure.
in terms of the messaging decisions that you made?
Right.
What messaging were you trying to emphasize in order not to alienate that original core constituency?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that's where the framework was really to focus on the occasion versus focus on the audience, which is a little bit different than some of the things that we talked about before. So audience is obviously important in terms of the targeting and where you're going to reach them. But what we wanted to focus the message around was the occasion, because the occasion was relevant to everybody, right? When we talked about, hey, everybody sat in front of the TV watching a movie. So let's talk about that occasion, and then all the audiences can be, it's relevant to. Everybody goes to the gym and works out. So when we talk about that occasion, it can expand a bunch of different audiences. Now, what we might do is we might change who the actual creative talent was in whatever form of communication based upon who we were focusing that target. So if we were focusing it toward women, we would probably have more women in the creative. If we were focusing on, worker outer buffs, if you will, we'd have that in terms of the talent. So those are some of the nuances that we did, but we really focused on the occasion, and that enabled us to still maintain Bubba, who's very loyal to us. Bubba eats a lot of beef jerky. Trust me, we cannot lose him.
But that also means you need to avoid certain types of messaging that make the product seem a little too nature and health conscious.
You got it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. So
absolutely.
the paleo theme, the Sasquatch and the paleo theme really works well
That's
in
right.
that regard. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Hi, it's Michael from Campbell's.
Hey, man.
When I think of Jack Link's, I think working with snacking brands myself, when I think of like more immediate consumption, right? And you think of like
impulse,
gas stations,
yep.
impulse buys, like convenience stores, etc. Is that by choice, or is that something that you're aiming to do, or is there a push to get people the more of the planning phase and putting in the shopping carts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Kind of back to the history of the category. Category has been very impulsive around specific occasions. So part of the reason it's gas station food is I'm going on a road trip. I don't want Billy and Susie to be yelling in the back of the car, so let me get them something that enables them to be sustained over this long road trip. Or I'm going on my fishing trip, let me stop by the gas station and pick it up. So in essence, the root of how the category was born is what made it impulsive. We're trying to change that to it becoming more everyday and trying to get people to think about it as an everyday snack. And that's one of the reasons why we're framing it up against other snacks. You know, one of the things I tell my team all the time is we need to look up and not down. So we don't really look at other beef jerky companies as our competitor because they're doing the same job that we're doing. We are looking at the Doritos of the world, the Go Fish of the world, as those are everyday snacks. We want to be considered in that same context. Great question. Yeah.
Hey, Hayden. Oh, hey, Hayden Spencer. I'm with Rebecca Benkiser.
I was sitting with you.
Oh, for everyone
Oh, you
else.
get it for everybody. Okay, I got it.
So, out of curiosity, I see that your household penetration went up 2 points for your brand. Personally, I have my snack drawer at my office, and I have the individual bags of beef jerky. Unfortunately, it's not Jack Link's. I go to Costco, and I'm a huge value shopper.
Sure.
Beef jerky's not cheap.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I'm just curious, you guys went up 2 points. What did your campaign do
For the
rest of the category?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's really and truly, that's exactly the category. Category was 2.1 because, you know, we're 50% of the category, so pretty much we're going to be the ones that drive the household penetration. But you're right, there are a lot of people are getting in the category because the category is hot, protein is hot, and so a lot of people are getting in. We look at our job as driving the category up, and we know we're going to disproportionately benefit from it. So we recognize that, you know, we have the highest share of voice, we're putting the most money into driving this household penetration, and others are going to benefit from it as well. But if we, you know, rise the category tide, if you will, we'll benefit disproportionately.
To be honest, too, outside Slim Jim, I don't know anything else besides.
I know we have your media team here anyway who could speak to this, but
Sure.
just generally, top line, what were the major changes to the media plan in order to target these
Yeah, I think the primary one was we had a lot, probably 80-20 in sort of, you know, linear TV and 20% in digital, and we went more to about a 50-50, close to 55-45, something like that. So we're transitioning away from linear TV and be as our primary media vehicle. And again, it's so that we can be more surgical to all the different audiences that we're trying to talk to.
We have another one?
Michael, again, one more question. No, so I saw the shift in the consumer targets that you had. How did you get to those? Like, where did that information come from?
Yeah, so this is back to kind of thinking about attitudes and behaviors of consumers in general, looking at the snacking landscape. So we did an overall kind of snacking ANU, not a beef jerky ANU, a snacking ANU, to really understand. And what we were not surprised, I shouldn't say surprised, but what we were kind of, you know, reinforced our hypothesis was that protein was like either one or two on most people's list in terms of what they're looking for out of a snack. And then we compared that and we like, well, wait a minute, we're protein. Like, you can't out-protein meat. So, like, why is beef jerky not high on their snacking list? And so that was kind of the convergence that we did. Was like, well, protein is high. It's what everybody's seeking. But yet beef jerky wasn't even in the top 10. So that was the scary part. We're like, man, we're not even in people's top 10 in terms of snacking. Like, people even had milk ahead of beef jerky. And I'm like, that's not my check. I don't think milk got any protein. So that's one of the things we said, all right, we've got to figure out how we influence these people to really think about protein and think about meat protein as a snack. So. Cool. Any other questions? Well, thank you again for your time.
TD, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was